right, so in this week's lesson, we're going to talk about some different ideas that you can implement to complement a rhythm part. This is a very common scenario, whether you're playing along with other musicians and everybody's already strumming chords, so you don't want to just do that. You want to come up with an interesting part to layer on top of that. Or you're doing your own home recording and maybe you're trying to come up with some interesting layers, that work together. There's a lot of practical application for this, but it's really following the same premise of just you don't want to copy or step on top of what's already being done. You want to try and complement that. And so that's what this lesson is designed to do. So we're going to break down that composition that I played in the intro note for note. We're going to put the tabs up on the screen, make it super easy to follow along with. And the idea behind that is that you understand where all of these notes come from. They're really coming from some basic harmonized sixths and some sus chords and things like that. So we're going to explain it all as we get into this. Now I've got the lesson split into two parts. So in this video we're going to go through the first half. If you'd like to learn the second half, as well as download the tablature and access the MP3 jam track, you can get all of those things to practice everything you're going to learn by going to activemelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP419. All right, so now let's talk about that first rhythm part, the part that we're going to be complementing. It's a very simple structure, basic chords, 4 basic chords. And so the first chord, actually the song is played in the key of C. And so our first chord is a C. And it goes like this. Here's the strum pattern. So when I do that, I go to an F and then back to the C. Very common scenario. You're playing the 1 chord, you go to the 4 chord, and then back to the 1 chord. It's always a great little pivot move. If you're looking for an idea to extend a chord, if you're hanging out on a chord for a while, go to the 4 chord of that chord and then back to the chord. It's just something that you hear a lot, especially in gospel. So those are the first 2 chords, the C and the F. Then it goes to another part where there's an A minor. And then we go back to the F, C. Right? So we go back to that little hook, the 4, back to the 1, back to the A minor, and then there's a G chord. So that's your 4th chord. So you have the A minor, G, and then it hangs out on the F, and then we go back to the C. So anyway, that's really all the chords that are involved. So then the challenge to you is what can you play on top of that to make it sound interesting? So the first thing we're going to learn is this little part that goes like this. Now notice how much open space there is. So the first thing that I played just sort of rings out, And so what I'm doing for that is I'm just playing a C chord, but I'm playing, so go ahead and make your C chord. You don't need your ring finger, you just need the top, your first 2 fingers there. And we're going to play strings 3, 2, 3. And then I put my pinky down on the 3rd fret first string on that G note. So that note is in the C chord, and it's just another voicing. And I know some of you know that, but if you're playing a C chord, you can always add your pinky here to just get a different, I think it's more of a full sounding voicing. And so that's what I'm doing for the beginning of that, is just playing the notes out of the chord and letting them ring out like that. Now this is where the song goes from the F back to the C. And to do that, to complement that, I played this. So let me talk you through that. So we'll break it down note for note first, and then I'll explain where it's coming from. To play that, we're just playing the C chord, and we play 2, 3, 4, strings 2, 3, and 4. And then watch this. There's a hammer-on with my ring finger. So notice I'm just playing with the C chord with these 2 fingers. I'm not playing the full chord that you might be used to. So we do the hammer-on there to the 4th string, 3rd fret. And then we go back to 3, 2. So we have, and then we go back to our C chord. I'm playing strings 3 and 4, but I'm hammering on with my middle finger to that 2nd fret, 4th string. So that altogether that lick goes. And what's going on there is this is the part where the rhythm player is playing F, C, and to trace that F, instead of me playing it directly, I'm playing a C sus4 like this. This chord is a C sus4, and you need to know your sus chords. SUS stands for suspended, and there's a sus4 and then there's a sus2. The sus4 sounds like this, the sus2 sounds like this, and it resolved. You hear that in a lot of church hymns, sus4, sus2, and then resolving on the tonic, or on the root chord, which is the C. And these are some great embellishments off the C chord that you play down in first position. If you learn nothing else, you got to get this, because you can play that C sus4, and keep your index finger and play strings 4, 3, and 2. That's a C sus2, and then back to your C. Listen what you can do with that. And that's all played around that C chord. You're playing the suspended 4, the suspended 2, and then you're going back to the roots. Very cool, and there's a lot of practical application for that. And the reason that sus4 sounded so good over the F is because you've put the F into the C chord. So you can think of it that way. It's like playing a C chord, but you go ahead and inject the F note into it. And so I thought that was a really good match, as the rhythm part goes from the F to the C to play the C sus4. Back to the C. All right, let's put on a slow version of the jam track. We'll put the tab up on the screen and play everything that we've learned so far. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I probably should have mentioned the timing aspect so you know when to start playing. So you'd come in at the beginning of this song on the and of 2. So if you're counting it out slowly, you could say 1 and 2. Right? Okay, now after that I played. Now this is a harmonized 6. I love the sound of the harmonized 6. This is a great go-to. You've actually got two main points that I keep going back to as I play these complements. The first is to play the sus4 and sus2 of the chord that you're on. The second is to play harmonized 6. And it's a combination of those options that just sound beautiful. So what I'm doing for this is I've got both fingers on the 3rd fret, strings 4 and 2, and I'm doing hybrid picking. You don't have to do that, but I'm picking with my pick on the 4th string and using my ring finger to pluck on the 2nd string. And then, actually you do have to hybrid pick when you do this part. So when you slide up to the 5th fret, you're going to play strings 2 and 4 at the same time. Now what this is, I'm going to give you two ways to think about it. The first is, these two notes, yes, they are a harmonized 6. That means there's 6 intervals apart. If you were to play the C major scale, there would be 6 intervals between these two notes. But you can think of it this way. You just think of your C chord using the A shape out of Caged. If you look at that and look at where your triad is here on the 5th fret, that's where those two notes are coming from. That's how I think of it. So I think of my C chord here, strings 2 and 4, my C chord here, strings 2 and 4. You can see what I'm doing. I'm playing harmonized 6, but I'm just playing the C chord to sort of connect those two. And the other way you can think about this is to think about playing the entire major scale for C, since we're playing off of this C chord here, and using harmonized 6 to play the major scale. And so I would be staying on strings 2 and 4, just like we did here, but the major scale would sound like this. Right? And what I'm doing is I'm playing the major scale on the 2nd string, and I'm harmonizing with it on the 4th string. And the way that I'm knowing which shape to go to, by the way, it's only two shapes. It's either this shape, which you'd call your major shape for your major chords, and it's this shape, which you'd use for your minor chords. So those of you that already know the chord structure, so major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished, that's the formula for playing the major scale with chords. If you know that, you just use this shape for your majors and this shape for your minors. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can just ignore that for now. But just remember this, you've got these harmonized 6 that you can connect off of chord shapes. And these are 3 really good ones right here. All right, so after the harmonized 6, I came into this. 4 notes. And this is playing a C sus2 chord. So we're back to the sus thing, the suspended chords. This is a really good voicing for doing that, and one that I use quite a bit. And so what I'm doing for that is I'm barring on the 3rd fret, and I've got my ring finger and my pinky on the 5th fret, strings 4 and 3. And that's a suspended 2 chord, a C suspended 2 or sus2. And so I think of that off of the A shape. If you're thinking of the Caged system, you've got your C chord here using the A shape. It's really just that chord. The difference is you're moving the 3rd interval out of your C chord down to here. to get that suspended chord. That's all it is. And what I played was 2, 3, 1, 2, and let them all ring out. It's a really cool sound. You can get a lot of mileage out of that, and it actually sounds really good with a really heavy, overdriven guitar as well. Those overtones just sound great with suspended chords. So if you're lost and you're playing a chord and you're not sure what to do, go to these suspended chords. Now you know a voicing for playing them, so you can transpose that and play that in any key now. I mean, over any chord, right? Just using that. But take some of these basic suspended chords and work them into your playing when you're hanging out on a chord for an extended period of time. So after that, I went a little country kind of lick, and this goes. So I've got my index finger on the 3rd fret 1st string, ring finger on the 5th fret 2nd string. I do a half bend on that 5th fret 2nd string while I hold down the 3rd fret like this. And then I've got strings 2 and 3 on the 5th fret. This is just a little country lick that I know off of the A shape. So when I play that A shape, I've got one finger on the 5th fret, one finger on the 3rd fret. So that's where I'm straddling right here on strings 1 and 2. So some of you just got that, and you see what I'm saying. You can visualize it. Oh, okay, so if I wanted to do that over a D chord, right? You can see what I'm talking about when you connect it back to a chord shape. And then this is a harmonized 3rd, but it's just within the chord. It's just strings 2 and 3 out of your C chord using the A shape. Let's back it up from the beginning and play up to that point. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now the song goes to the A minor. And so what I played over that goes like this. And what I'm doing is I'm sliding into the 5th fret. I'm borrowing the first 3 strings. Now, if you're not sure why I would be doing that, well, remember we're playing over an A minor, so I was just thinking chord shapes. I don't think of big full chords using all 6 strings though. Most of the time I'm thinking about triads or just little segments of those chords. It makes it so much more doable, especially for something like this. And so all I need are these notes. They're an A minor, right? So I slid into that, starting on the 4th fret, 3rd string, slide up to the 5th fret, and then you hit the 1st string. But now you understand why that is. It's just the A minor triad. And then we go back to the 3rd string, and then pinky is up here on the 8th fret, 2nd string, and let that ring out. So you have this. Hear how all those notes are kind of ringing out on top of each other? It creates kind of a spacey sound. I really like the sound of that. Now these notes are all minor pentatonic scale pattern 1 for A minor pentatonic scale, I should say. But they're also the C major pentatonic scale. Right? And the reason that works is because A minor, that A minor chord, is the relative minor for C. So remember, we were playing all this in the key of C. Everything we've been doing was a C. Then we go to the A minor, and the reason I went to the A minor is because it's just the relative minor. It's in the chord family. So you can use your circle of fifths to kind of work out chords like that if you're trying to write something. But anyway, that's why that works, is since you've got the relative minor, which is A minor, and then your major C chord, they're both sharing the same scale. So they're both playing. You can play like the A minor pentatonic scale, which is also the C major pentatonic scale. They share the same notes. So that's why these notes sound good when they ring out over the A minor and over the C when it goes back to the C. So you have 1, 2, and then I go 3, 2, 3. So I just held that shape down, and that's all I did was I just let those notes ring out. And that's why it works, is one is the A minor pentatonic scale, one is the C major pentatonic scale. Then the song goes back to the A minor, and I went... And so what I'm doing there is I go back to that 4th fret 3rd string, I do a half bend, release, and then watch this. Now this is just your A minor again, right? Using the E minor shape, where we bar here on the 5th fret. Now I don't need to play the entire bar there. I'm not playing all 6 strings. I'm just playing the top 4. So I've got my ring finger on the 7th fret, 4th string. So I play 4, 3, and then 1 and 2 at the same time. And then the song goes to a G, and I play like this. I just played a G triad right here using the D shape. So think of your D shape in first position. If you play it up here, you're playing a G chord. You can start to see why knowing your chord voicings makes all the difference in the world when you're trying to play something like this. Actually, when you're trying to do anything on the guitar, it's how you unlock the fretboard. So this 3, 2, 1 is, that G chord. And then watch this. Isn't that cool? So that's where the song goes back to the F and it hangs out on the F. So I took that G chord, and that's kind of a David Gilmour thing. I think that's a Pink Floyd something. Somebody out there is going to know what that is. But I'm playing strings 1 and 2 on the 7th fret, sliding down to the 5th fret. Now, why would I do that? Because it goes from the G chord to the F chord. G, F. So it's logical that G, F, right? You can see the connection. All right, and then the last thing that I did to wrap that up, I went back to that same lick, that little country lick, where we do the half bend there on the 5th fret, 2nd string. And then the final thing that I played in this, for this first half, I went back to that C sus2 chord, and I played 2, 3, 4. Isn't that cool? It's just simple. But you just let them ring out. You don't have to play a lot. When you're doing something like this that's slow and melodic, you're just trying to complement. So playing something like that and letting it ring out like a bell sounds great. Works on an acoustic, works on electric, whatever you're playing through, just let those notes ring. All right, we're going to wrap up this part 1 video right there. I think that's a good stopping place. Let me back up and play through the slow version of the jam track one more time. We'll put the tabs up for this first half. If you want to join us for the second half and get all those extra learning assets as well as gain access to everything that I've got, just make sure you check out Premium Membership. It's very affordable and you have 10 years worth of in-depth lessons like this. They're all designed to help you become better at improvising and know what to do. Give you ideas. That's really what they're all for, is just to give you lots of ideas. All right, let me back up and play through this one more time, and then we'll see you in part 2. 1, 2, 3, 4.